Welcome to another episode of Up To. 9 years ago, Up To started as a live event series showcasing leaders who are as humble as they are successful. The humility piece is extremely important as we identify leaders who can inspire others. We try to focus our interviews on the non-business aspects of their lives. And in doing so, we have found there's a real thirst to explore their hearts and minds in atypical ways. Our host, as always, is Adam Kaufman. And on this episode, we are joined by longtime business leader and entrepreneur, Fred Koury.
I'm grateful that Koury, Halter & Griswold has once again agreed to partner with us. With offices in Ohio and Washington, D.C., this full-service national law firm focuses on all aspects of business and the law, including corporate and finance, intellectual property, and government relations. Let me be clear. I actually approach companies with whom I would like to partner. We just don't accept marketing dollars from anyone. I have been referring my CEO and entrepreneur friends to Koury for years. I really believe in the firm. One of their notable practice areas is in mergers and acquisitions. And recently, for instance, I introduced a successful entrepreneur in the Midwest to Koury when he told me that a European-based conglomerate wanted to buy his business. Koury works with large corporations as well as privately held companies throughout the U.S. and Canada and in Europe and Asia too. So whether it's selling your own business or the more routine needs of creating your first will or anything in between, this firm can really do it all in terms of legal needs. Once again, the firm is Koury, Halter & Griswold, and you can find them at calfee.com or on the Up To Foundation website. We are thrilled today to be on location in Cleveland. We haven't done a podcast in my hometown for years, but we wanted to do so today because of this rare opportunity to be with one of my favorite entrepreneurs. A special thank you to VividFront, a marketing firm that I've known for years. And as a partner in our podcast, we've referred countless entrepreneurs to VividFront. So thank you for having us today. Today's guest is an entrepreneur and longtime business leader who until very recently was the CEO and co-founder of Smart Business, a company he launched in 1989 with a single magazine in Cleveland, which grew into a national multimedia platform serving middle-market CEOs and founders. Over more than 3 decades, he built Smart Business into a go-to resource for leadership insight, deal-making, intelligence, and high-impact events around the country, which connected executives and investors and advisors across the U.S. Along the way, he's worn many hats: a publisher, a convener, a storyteller, a trusted advisor. He's helped so many people navigate through raising capital and buying companies, selling their business, a lot of the more sensitive side of that as well, and the emotional side. He's also been deeply involved in the community, serving on nonprofit and civic boards, and he has spent a little bit of time in politics. He also leads a sizable men's fellowship group. One of those rare individuals who is admired by everyone who is fortunate to meet him, today's guest has earned a truly stellar reputation, unlike any I believe I've ever witnessed. Yet, in spite of all he has achieved, our guest today remains noticeably uncomfortable when anyone sings his praises. I can see him actually squirming in his chair right now because I'm boasting about him. Recently, this business leader made the very momentous decision to sell his company, something he built over 35 years. And that is one of the primary reasons we were excited to welcome him back to the podcast, to maybe reflect on that decision a little bit and to give us a preview of what lies ahead. He has so much to share. We're going to cover a lot in an hour. Fred Koury, welcome to the Up To podcast.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. It was beautiful.
What have you been up to?
Well, there's so many exciting opportunities in the marketplace, and I have a lot of energy. And so what I am up to is looking to put my passion, my excitement, and my energy behind something that I really enjoy. And so I've been having a lot of different meetings with different folks, different industries, big companies, smaller companies, startup companies. As you mentioned, I just recently sold my business, and I love staying active, and I love business. And People say, well, don't you want to take it easy? Don't you enjoy your life more? Well, I enjoy my life
That's
by
part of
working.
your life, right? Yeah.
That's my life. I have intermix business and pleasure. They come together as far as I'm concerned. So as far as what I've been up to, just been out in the marketplace, meeting with people, talking to people, get excited about every industry and just how things work in general.
We're going to get into that huge decision to sell the business, but you mentioning that right now you're talking to people, and something that I've always been impressed by with you is your instincts. You seem to have really good instincts. And in this context, I mean, like when to jump into something or when to pass on something, when to learn a little bit more about a new trend you're seeing. Have you ever noticed that you do have good instincts? Is that something that you try to really take advantage of, or do you just kind of go with what your stomach tells you and jump into something? Like, how do you make these decisions?
It's a good question. Recently, the CEO of NVIDIA was being asked about how AI is going to change the world, and is it going to be able to take these CEO positions? Is it going to take so many positions in companies? And one of the things that he talked about is that it doesn't have the instinctive side figured out yet.
Mm-hmm.
How to see around the corner, the black swan situations. And so I think, when you've been in business and you don't have a lot to fall back on, and you're able to surround yourself with good people, and you kind of stay in touch with what's going on, it's not always textbook. There's times when you have to use your gut. And I think it's like anything else. The more you do something over and over again, the more you experience it, the better you get at it. And so you start to trust your gut more on instincts, and
So once you took some chances on a gut instinct and it proved to be a good decision, you just were more confident to do that more often.
yes. And the more decisions you've made, and you start off with smaller decisions that aren't as hurtful.
Yeah. So give an example of like how early on did you realize, okay, I have a knack for this, or I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I think you told me one time that you were subcontracting your chores to people in your neighborhood so that you could make money off of your allowance.
Well, that's an interesting one. Yeah. A different one is to business. I remember that our smaller ads in the beginning, we sold small ads, and 80% of our advertisers were real small, and they would spend a couple $100 a month. But 90% of them had problems paying. And then also, not only problems paying, 90% of them didn't resign a year later because they were the ones that needed to get the return on investment.
Mm.
And so we decided to go uphill, and we started eliminating those smaller ones. We said instead of selling the real small 8th-page ads, we're going to do quarter-page ads. And so we're not going to sell the $230 ads anymore. It's going to be the $640 ads. And we had like 800 of them at the time, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I do this, it could really affect my business, But we took a chance, and we a lot of those people said we'll go from an 8th page to a quarter page. They upsized.
Mm-hmm.
We lost a lot of them, but in the end, a year later, when we look back, the business transitioned very nicely. We got rid of several hundred of them that probably couldn't pay their bills, couldn't afford to be doing what they were doing. And then the ones that we were able to keep were happier. And so that was a big decision at the time because that was cash flow coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and to take that risk and to do that.
Another
So it was a calculated risk.
Another time I saw you really take advantage of your skills and instincts was when you said to me, Adam, I think video is going to be really big. And this was before YouTube was really a big platform. And I said, I don't know, Fred, your audience, CEOs, I don't know how much time they're going to spend on video. I don't know if they're going to want to be on video. They're so private. Mm-hmm. I was so wrong. You were so right. You bought a small video company. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
And I just think that, wow, the instincts of this fella, it's not a common trait. So I just wanted to make sure you realize that it's something that I'm glad that you do realize is a skill of yours.
I know in 2008 when digital came out, we came across this advisor, and we still had 20 business magazines. And he told us what was about to happen in the industry. I didn't wait around for our magazines to go out of business. I pivoted quickly, and I started getting into video and web development and these types of things. And sure enough, a couple months later, we lost one of our largest print advertiser. Mm. And eventually went from 20 magazines to one magazine. over time, but we were proactive about that. We didn't wait for that to affect us. We went on the offense, and we started getting involved with other products that were more digital and that the market wanted at the time.
Smart, good
So we started to
instincts.
pivot our business, and that was just, from education, from talking to people, looking at the marketplace.
Well, I've jumped into the instincts topic with real examples that you've provided, but let's go more broadly. This is the second time you've been on our show. I don't know if you know, but we've only had 3 other people on the Up To podcast twice. One, former U.S. Ambassador, Doug Holliday, who you know.
One.
2, Philippe Bourguignon, who was the CEO of the Davos World Economic Forum. And General Lenderman, who's a 3-star general. She's been on twice. So this is, pretty elite peer group that you're in, but it's because you are truly a remarkably humble leader. Our show is leaders who are as humble as they are successful. How do you think, in spite of all you've achieved, you do stay true to your authentic self, your humble self? Is it because of an accountability group you're in? Is it because of your spouse? Like, how do you think you remain humble in spite of all you've achieved? And, some of your colleagues who are just as successful, they're not humble. So how do you stay true to this humility?
I don't take myself too seriously, Adam. I really don't. I think, we're all given different gifts and talents. Some people have the gift and talents of maybe being a teacher. Some are a doctor. Some are business people. I happen to be, my gifts and talents are in business. I know those are my gifts and talents. So because we're all given different gifts, we're supposed to use them to the best of our abilities. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the ones that I've been given. And then I think we're given them, and then we can do more to grow them, But so I don't take myself too seriously. Also, I know that you can lose everything overnight as well. I keep that in mind constantly. It's a privilege to be able to have the opportunity that I'm in. So I never look down at anybody. Everybody has intrinsic value. Everybody has intrinsic value. God created all of us. Just like $100 bill, if you were to see that thing rolled up in the street, it was muddy and dirty, you'd pick that up. Why? Because that has intrinsic value. It's the same thing with people. Everybody has intrinsic value. And so that's how I look at other people. To me, the definition of humility is not thinking less of myself, it's thinking more of others.
That's terrific.
As I remind myself of that,
Do you ever find it challenging, though, because, in the environment of deals and vacations with friends in business, like it's always kind of human nature to want to have more stuff or to go to cooler places or dine in the finest private dining rooms at the best restaurants in the world. But you remain humble through all of that. Do you ever find it hard? Is it easy to keep yourself in check?
That doesn't do anything for me, that stuff you're mentioning.
Okay.
And maybe that's why.
Okay.
I don't have, I know for me, like one of the reasons why I love taking my kids to school is I spoke into them is that your security comes from who you are, not what you have or what people think of you. I don't want you looking for people's security and what other people think of you. And I remember driving them specifically to school day after day, and I give them the same message over and over again. I didn't want my kids to be insecure. I wanted them to be secure in who they were. And that same security is the same security that I have is that, look, God has a plan and a purpose for me. And my plan is different. His plan for me is different than somebody else's plan. I'm not looking to the left and I'm not looking to the right. I'm looking up when I'm not sure about things. I don't want to look about what this person is driving or what this person is doing. I want, if I have any uncertainty about where I'm at, I look up. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
The second thing is when grass starts to look greener on the other side of the fence, water your own lawn. And that's the second one, is that I'll start looking if there's a certain area that attracts me, a certain person that has a certain attribute that I'm attracted to. Let's say somebody's a better golfer. Let's say somebody's in better shape. Let's say somebody's, doing better in business. Instead of looking at them, I look at the skill set, the attribute that they have, and then I go after more of that.
That's good.
Maybe I need to start working out better. Maybe I need to start getting up earlier in the morning. Maybe I need to start doing more of this. Do you see what I'm getting at?
I do.
Watering my own lawn, not wishing I can be someone else.
Actually, I planned on asking you about that, like your habits. I'm always interested in how successful people go about their day. Is it the same routine every morning, or is there certain things every week you want to do? Like, how do you regiment your daily workflow, personal flow that allows you to be the best version of yourself?
That's another great question, Adam. I think one of the things is I think really big. I love to think big.
Let me interrupt. Like, what are you doing when you're thinking big? Are you meditating? Are you out on a jog? Can it happen anywhere? Some people even have to go to a certain place.
I think it could happen anywhere. I think, okay, Mark Zuckerberg, look what he did. I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, look what Sergey Brin did with Google. I can do that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, not because I'm as smart as them or as talented as them. I think it has to do with a combination of things when you see people that are successful. So when I see something, I don't feel like it's beyond my reach of being able to attain.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when I say I think big, is that if I have a certain goal that I want to achieve, I have that picture in mind. Do you see what I'm getting at? And that's planting seeds of faith. That's planting seeds of faith. And then the more you exercise that faith by more believing on it and working towards it, you can achieve it. So, they say if you shoot for the stars, you'll end up with the sky. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times, I think our goals are too small. I think our goals are too small. We set small goals. And so I think that's part of, we get this one shot. Why not be the best versions of ourselves, and why not go for it? Now, everybody may not have that same vision or that same dream of wanting to accomplish something big or do something great. And that's fine. I don't think that's for everybody. But I think as far as I'm concerned, that's something that drives me.
So how do you constructively go about your morning, though? Like, are you always getting up at the same time? Do you read something every day? How do you take in information? I hear from a lot of our viewers and listeners who are still developing their habits early in a career. So is there anything that you could share that you think has really helped you flourish, whether it's how you take care of yourself or anything?
Yeah, I think it's been acquired over time. As you know, I'm a student of the Bible. I've studied the Bible inside and out. And then I'm a student of business people. I know all about Warren Buffett, all about Charlie Munger. I know about people that run the top private equity funds that are real estate funds.
So what are you doing, like reading newspapers to learn about that, or books?
Yeah, so a lot of it has been books.
I'm looking to get really granular.
Videos, newspapers. I love real estate funds, private equity funds.
Okay.
Stephen Schwartzman from Blackstone. It could be Brad Jacobs.
So you follow these thought leaders.
It could be the best of the best, Tony Robbins. And so the more that you study these different leaders in different industries, these different CEOs of companies, the more that becomes in your DNA, and the more you understand it, what they look for. Warren Buffett was a get-rich-slowly type of person. His success came from not selling. He bought, he acquired, he let it build, the power of exponential growth over the course of time, whether it was public companies that he purchased or whether it was private companies that he purchased. And he's got stories to tell on both sides of them. He's the greatest investor of all time. So you take a look at, they love buying and holding because the money grows over the course of time. And so as an investor, that's somebody that I would look up to. His approach. If it came to something else, let's say Tony Robbins, for instance. Tony Robbins, what I love about him is he speaks against complacency. We can become very complacent.
You're definitely not a complacent person.
At different levels, but he drives me on that area to take different areas of your life. And, one of the areas I'm taking is golf right now. It's an area of complacency. I went out and bought new clubs. I'm going to go to golf school. I'm taking my game more seriously now. I'm not just settling that this is what I always score. You know what I mean? I want to take it to the next level.
Challenging yourself.
Yeah, challenging myself.
Thinking
so one of the
big.
things that Tony Robbins does is he helps people think outside the box. He helps people think outside the box. Tommy Newberry wrote a book called 40 Days to a Joyful Life, How to Cultivate Joy in Your Life. Garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you take in, you're putting in. Nobody can force you to eat bad. Nobody can force you to think bad. And so it's really what thoughts we put in our head. If we have 50,000 thoughts a day, 49,900 are the same thoughts as yesterday's, unless we're doing something to transform our thought life. And that's what he talks about in his book, is how to transform our thought life.
Newberry?
Yes, because what we think is what we feel. So if we wake up feeling pretty bad, it's because we're not putting the right thoughts in our head, right?
So you mentioned Newberry, Charlie Munger, Tony Robbins. You're learning from them. I think people learn from you. The column you have in your magazine, I just noticed it recently went from the front page to the back page, but I hope you still write it because I think you share a lot of learnable life lessons. I don't know if you plan on continuing to write that column or maybe a book or maybe a Substack. I mean, I think you have a lot to share. Have you thought about maybe how you could impact others now that you're in this new season of your life?
Well, a lot of that content, whether it was in my up front or in the back, I'll be in the back now writing for the magazine. It's evergreen content. I call it timeless content because it applies today, tomorrow, and the next day.
For sure.
And a lot of that is life lessons from me, but a lot of it's life lessons from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
are you going to keep writing it?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I continue to write that, but it's life lessons. It's evergreen content, and I think there's good, better, and best. And I think too often we settle for good, and we settle for better, and we're not going after best.
Yeah, good is the enemy of great. I love that
Yes.
opening line from Collins's famous book.
Yeah.
So you are going to write the column. Might you write a book, or might you start your own podcast, or have you thought at all about how you could share more or impact more? I know you lead a men's group, which is very vibrant, but have you thought about doing anything else in that regard?
Not really. I think right now I'll just continue to write the column and continue to share at the men's fellowship group, and we have one-on-one conversations. But I think in order to be able to share with people, you really have to be. I've had several people say, "Hey, can you mentor me?" And my conversation back to them is, "Happy to go to lunch with you and share."
Can you mentor me? Is that what you said?
Yeah, but I said I'd be happy to go to lunch with you and share.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe so much in mentoring because I think we always have to stay teachable. Teachable.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we're teachable, the more we can grow and we can share. And so I think there's something to learn from everyone.
For sure.
You know,
I call that experience sharing. Rather than giving advice, it's experience sharing.
it's experience sharing.
Yeah.
And there's something you learn from everybody. And I think once you think that you're in the position of teacher and the other person's in the position of student.
But see, that's part of your humility coming out. Like, you don't feel like you should be a mentor because you feel like you could even learn from the person you're mentoring. But that exudes humility, which is just wonderful. Let's talk about the huge decision for you to sell the business after 35 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still relatively young, and I'm sure there could have been a different scenario where you continue to grow that enterprise. But can you talk a little bit about what led to this milestone in your life? Was it something you were pondering for a long time, or more opportunistic that something came your way? Can you share a little bit about that? And I want to thank you. I know other places, other outlets wanted you to tell your story, but thanks for doing it here first with us.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I think what happened is, when you've been in business that long and things change so much in the economy and with what's going on with technology, our business has changed a number of different times over the years. So we've had to reinvent ourselves a handful of times. And this last couple of years, we've been on the upswing again. And we were currently approached by a private equity company. I should say recently approached by a private equity company a couple years ago. And as we were talking to them, we ended up not following through with that deal.
They approached you about acquiring
They approached
you.
us about acquiring us. And we decided not to follow through with that. It didn't work out. But we decided to get our ducks in a row and start kind of dotting I's and crossing T's and professionalizing our business a little bit more from how we were running it and come up with a real expansion plan. And so over the next couple of years, we did that, and then we decided to go to market.
So that 2-year strategy wasn't to position for sale. It was just to grow the business.
It was to grow give us options.
Okay.
It was really to give us options.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
And so, yes, we brought an outside advisor in, and we started packaging the company in such a way to put us on a growth trajectory. And really, like I said, cleaning up some of our financials, of how we were going about running things, and just professionalizing the business. And at that time, last year, I'd say maybe the spring of last year, we decided to interview investment bankers and to go to market. I've been doing the same business for a long time, and we just thought, you know what, it seemed like it would be a good time to explore the marketplace. And so we went to market. We did engage with an investment banker we thought was the right fit for us, and we ended up having 4 or 5 different interested parties. And
Was that stressful? That phase of it?
It really wasn't stressful. It was. I always look at things as exciting because I'm learning and growing once again. You know, these are all. It was a new phase for me. You know, and I liked everybody that I talked to. You know, and they were all good opportunities. But then the last one that came in, Vistage, which is the one that we ended up selling to in the end, it just seemed like it was the perfect fit for us for so many different reasons. And
Vistage is the largest CEO organization in the world, just for our viewers who don't know, based in San Diego, but they
largest CEO peer group. They have 45,000 members in 40 countries, and a certain percentage of their members sell their companies every year. And so they look to us as a platform to be able to help facilitate those sales, and as well as using us to attract new clients to sign up that attended our events. And
so at this point, your events business was really big. You're in like 25 cities. You have Vistage types of people in these events. Like, is that why they thought this would be a good match, or is it more like the publication side?
No, yes, it was. We had 20 dealmaker events we were doing, along with a number of other events, and still doing some of the publishing and some of these other things. But we were in New York, Dallas, Houston, Denver. We were
all the big cities.
Yeah, 2/3 of the country. We weren't on the West Coast yet. And it just seemed like it was a great fit for them for what they're trying to accomplish too. And so it was a perfect fit. I mean, the whole thing from beginning to end closed in 6 to 7 weeks, and everything happened very quickly. And Gridiron Capital also owns Leaf Filter here locally. They're the ones that own Vistage International, excellent private equity company to work with. Everything just went quickly. And so my goal was not to retire. You know, my goal was to take a little time off to reflect, okay, I've been doing this for a long period of time. I've acquired these skills and talents and this network and my relationships. You know, what do I think I can get excited about putting my energy behind now? And so that's where I'm at today, exploring different opportunities about where I can.
Have you given yourself like a timeline internally? You want to have a new project by, 1 year, or is it just kind of as it goes, you'll see what comes along, and you'll, with your instincts, know when to jump into something?
Yeah, I don't have a specific timeline. It's just it's the right opportunity at the right time.
You can take your time. That's good.
Yeah, I'm out there exploring the market right now, and
what excites you right now? Are you seeing anything you could share that you want to learn more about, or any industry, or any region, or any technology? Like what's stimulating you right now?
Really, everything excites me. I mean, I'm very opportunistic. I've got a lot of resources behind me, not only myself, but there's other people that want to be involved. It could be anything from a company that's, maybe looking for a CEO to come in and take over, take it to the next level, to a company that needs capital. A large company needs capital, or a middle-sized company needs capital. It's really, I'm open to any and all kinds of opportunities right now. I don't have anything specific in mind.
I'm looking at you, talking to you about your future self, and I'm wondering what you were like when you were like a teenager. I didn't know you then. I've known you a long time.
Right.
Full disclosure, I should say that our guest today, I should have said this at the beginning, but our guest today and I used to sit in his large home that didn't have furniture, and we would sit on the floor and have dinner, and we would pray to hopefully one day find wives of noble character. You remember that, Fred?
Yes, I do, Adam.
And we never expected to be marrying sisters, which we did do 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
So I should have disclosed that. But I'm looking at you now and thinking, what must have this fella been like when he was like 12 and 15? Did you see early on that you were going to be this entrepreneur with hunger for ideas and business and just big goals? Like, were there any early signs?
Well, I always had little entrepreneurial ventures. I always got bored with traditional education. I always kind of thought outside the box. I think one of the things I did come into an opportunity at a young age, and I always say we get these opportunities in life. We have to recognize when we get them. I think sometimes we don't recognize the opportunities when they present themselves to us. I call it moments of grace. I think there's moments of grace in our life when maybe a certain person has been ascended into our life, or we bump into somebody or we come into a certain situation. It's nothing we did on our own accord. And I can look back in my life and see moments of grace.
Can you give an example of that? I call that the kaleidoscope, God's kaleidoscope.
Yes, I can see moments of grace is like when that gentleman came into my office and he told me that publishing is gone. The digital world is here to stay, and I still 100% of my revenue is still publishing. And he said, you're going to be out of business a year from now. And I looked at my customers and I thought, what are you talking about? I'm as solid as can be. And then he left and I thought about it and I thought, this guy knows what he's doing. I'm going to take a chance. That was a moment of God's grace. He opened up a whole different picture for me than what I can see. You know what I mean? So I think we have those moments where we meet that one person that can change our life, that one idea that can change our life, that one maybe experience that can change our life.
Exposure to something.
Yeah.
So back to the early Fred Koury, like what can selling fish and lobster, teach you about life? You were a successful seller to grocery chains of seafood.
Yeah.
I mean, at a young age. And that's a pretty interesting line of work.
Right.
What did you learn back then?
Well, just to back it up 30 seconds before that, I was going to go to law school. My father was a lawyer, and I had to sit out a year to go to law school. So when I graduated from Bowling Green, I took classes at Ohio State, graduate classes. My sister married a guy in Boston in the fish business. He worked in a family business with 25 first cousins.
Oh, my goodness.
And his father had 4 brothers, and he knew he was only going to go so far in that business. 2 of them had the same name as him. So he left and started his own fresh frozen seafood company. And his idea was to contract with fishing vessels in the Pacific Ocean, and whatever he pays for it, he would end up with all the fish. So he would say, okay, to this vessel, I'll give you $2.65 a pound. And that vessel would bring in shark, halibut, tuna, all kinds of different fish, and he didn't know what he was going to get. The shark was cheap. The tuna was expensive. He was hoping he'd catch more tuna and halibut than the shark. And he would take all that, and it would be frozen at sea and sent to his factory. And his idea was to stake it and put it in cryovacs and send it to the retail chains. And the retailers can merchandise it through the fresh food seafood departments at that time. And they can control their waste. Now, at that time, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, minimum wage kids were working behind that fresh fish counter. And that piece of fish would shrink overnight if it didn't sell. And so fish is made up of 80% water. And so he was showing them they were losing a lot of money behind their fresh fish departments at that time. So he had this great concept. So when I was in school, he said, why don't you sell part-time for me? And so I landed a big account. He flew in with a suit on. He offered me a full-time job.
This is while you're at Ohio State.
Yeah. I quit school and I went to work for him.
Because at that point, did you already see that you were good at this? Or why did you quit
I
school?
knew I was good at it.
Okay, you could see pretty
I
early
could see
on.
I was good at selling commodities. Now, commodities are very hard to sell. I would call up these grocery store chains every day, and I would try to sell my fish to them. Well, guess what? There was 50 other companies selling it to them. And when I knew I was really good is there was a guy in Chicago named Jerry Beaker at Jewel Seafood. And I finally got him to say to me, hey, Fred, we'll try your fish when I come back from vacation. So I called him 2 weeks later, and I said, hey, Jerry, this is Fred Koury from Sea Star Seafoods. He goes, who? I said, Fred Koury from Sea Star Seafoods. I said, you said you were going to try my fish when you got back from vacation. He's like, oh, yeah. You know, Fred, I changed my mind. Thanks. And he hung up the phone. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I opened up my Dale Carnegie book. And at the time, I just got done taking Dale Carnegie, and I was a teaching assistant. And I got to the page where it said, get them to empathize with you. So I called him back on the phone, and I said, Jerry, this is Fred Koury again. Yes, Fred, how can I help you? Jerry, you told me you were going to try my fish. I told the CEO of the company you were going to try my fish. I'm a person that keeps my word. And you made me look very bad with the CEO of my company that you said you were going to try it, and now you said you're going to pass. Hold on a second, Fred. I hear him on his computer. He starts asking me questions about how those boxes were packed. After I got done telling me you can get a 10-pound or a 20-pound, and here's the price, he said, okay, I'll take this many cases. I'll try this. I'll try this. Hung up the phone. It was a $100,000 order, which I didn't know at the time was a very big order in our company.
Wow.
And so I figured out how to get these people to empathize with me. So every single order was different. I'd have to find some way to connect with these people.
So that phrase about I'm a man of my word, I told my boss that you were going to try it, he empathized with that.
Yeah, not taking no for an answer.
But you also, I think, taught me that don't take no personally.
Never took it personally.
I've never heard that before, but I love that. I've thought about that since you mentioned that to me. Don't take no personally. When he hung up the first time, it's not like he knew you and he was judging you.
Right.
But a lot of people do take that personally, and they're cowering away from making the next call.
So what happened is I was very successful in seafood, and then eventually I launched this business. And when I was in this business,
Smart business?
Smart business, 36 years ago. So when I was in the field with one of the salespeople, I took her on a sales call. And I'll never forget, I was sitting down with a potential customer, and the guy looked at me very respectfully. He goes, Fred, I've said no to you 4 times. I'm going to say no to you 45 more times. And on the 50th time, I'm going to ask you to leave my office.
Wow.
So I'll never forget, I took my binder, and I said, I'm going to save you the time. And I closed my binder. I said, we're going to leave now. There's nothing more to talk about. And we got in the car, and she started crying. I go, what are you crying for? She goes, I don't think I can do this job. I can't do this. She started crying.
That took some courage.
A week later, I got a call from him. He said he changed his mind. He wanted to do business with me. I walked over to her desk, and I explained to her what happened, and she was shocked, and she couldn't believe it. And I said, you see? I said, persistence pays off.
And your instinct to close the binder, play a little hard to get. You have a real talent for following through on your instincts.
I don't know. It's just I believe in it. If you believe in something, they're not rejecting you. You
I
see
love
what I'm
it.
getting at?
And so did that salesperson stay with you at that
She
point?
stayed with me at
she
that
didn't
point.
Quit. That's awesome. You know, I planned on asking you about any like curves in the road and what did you learn from that, but that's a little curve in the road for sure, and a lot to learn. Any other personal challenges where maybe you didn't make the right decision or to follow through on an instinct early enough that maybe if you did, it would have gone another way? And the reason I'm asking that is I know that God's plan is perfect, but I also know that we all have free will. God gives us free will to make a decision to turn left or turn right or do this or don't do that. So I think a lot about where does like God's will end and where does free will begin? So have you ever in your free will capabilities maybe done something that now you look back on saying I could have done it a different way?
I think so. I think at the beginning I was fast to fire, slow to hire. And fast to hire, slow to fire.
Okay. So you would hold on to somebody too long that maybe wasn't the right fit.
I'd hire them too fast, and then I'd fire them too slow. And over time, I became slower to hire and faster to fire. Now, when I use the word fire, we always treat people with dignity and respect, meaning I give people severance. I'll write them a letter. I'll help them get a job. Because once again, everybody has significance. But if I feel like they're not a fit, I don't feel bad for them because I'm not their God. Sometimes people come for a reason. Sometimes it's a season, and sometimes it's for a lifetime. And maybe it was just for a reason. But I do believe the more vetting you could do on the front end now, and due diligence, you know.
This is, again, your humility coming out in that even if they're not a good fit, doesn't mean they're not a good person. It's just not a good fit for that role or that company in that time. Another form of your meekness that I recall that I'd like you to share a little bit about here is I know you had a big customer, an advertising client, who I think owed you a lot of money. And you made this decision, it was your instinct to like not fight him over past payments due that were already agreed upon, where contractually you could have gone to court and gotten some of that money back. But you chose not to go after your customers who owed you money. Do you remember that?
Sure.
And has that served you well, that kind of philosophy?
I think it has. I don't like to have open emails in my head. And what I mean by that is things that are open. I like bringing closure to things. And so I think what happens is when things happen in business, whether it's holding a grudge or holding on to something or should have done something different or having regret. In this particular case, it was a gentleman that wasn't treating our staff right. He owned a company out of Akron. I didn't like the way he was very vulgar with our people. So I said, let's get rid of this guy as a client. And he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave. And so I went back and said, he's going to have to leave. And they said, well, he's not going to leave unless we reimburse the money that he spent with us.
Reimburse, not paying you for what
Reimburse.
you were owed. Reimburse.
And I said, well, how much money did he spend with us? They said, over the last year and a half, it was like $28,000. And I thought about it, and I said, give him a check, and let's get rid of him. We don't need this kind of aggravation for the company. And I remember at the time, my controller, who's like, she's real soft, really low key. She's been with me a long time. She formerly worked at Ernst & Young. She was a real professional. She goes, Fred, I think you're being weak.
That's why I use the word meek.
And I remember hearing her say that to me, and she knows I'm not a weak person. She's worked for me for a long time. I go, that's okay. I go, I'd rather just get rid of this guy. I don't need any aggravation. And we paid the money, and a week later, we got a check back from Medical Mutual saying that we'd overpaid on our health insurance over the last couple of years, $35,000.
Unrelated to this client situation.
Unrelated to the client situation, but it was the $35,000 that covered the $28,000 we paid.
That's God's kaleidoscope.
And so I'm saying those are the kind of things that have happened for us. That's not a traditional way maybe that they say in business school that you should handle that situation.
Right.
But instinctively,
It served you well.
I wanted to be done with it and move on.
Well, that relates to something else I think you're really good at is relationships. You and I were having lunch yesterday, kind of preparing for this conversation, and we were both lamenting that the younger generation, I'm 55, our kids are in their young 20s, the younger generation, they don't really have relationship skills in the same way that we had to develop them growing up. In this digital age, relationships kind of get short attention. You're terrific at relationships. You just shared an example of how you dealt with one where the gentleman wasn't good to your staff. But how do you hone your relationship skills? I know you have a huge character father who is great at relationships. But how about your own relationship skills? Have you had to work on that over the years?
Well, you're right. One of the things is my father. You brought up my father. I remember my dad always saying, be good to the little people and the big people will take care of you. And I'm like,
Wait, you said that quickly.
I remember my dad used to say to me, take care of the little people and the big people will take care of you.
I love that.
And I was thinking, well, who are the little people? What's the little people? And I'd see him always tip the guy at the airport, tip the waitress, get the guy at the parking lot. A lot of people that are doing their jobs on a daily basis that nobody's really paying attention to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he was a lawyer. And I remember going to the courthouse with him at Christmas time, and his back was filled with gifts for every single person that worked in the courthouse.
Really?
I don't know if you can do that today.
Right.
Boxes of candy and bottles of wine and just different gifts. And always at the same restaurants we went to, he always took care of the people that worked there. And I thought, gosh, what a smart idea. So, I eat at all the same restaurants. I go to the same places, and I really take care of the people that work at those places. And boy, they treat you like gold when you go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great.
Whether it's parking outside or whether it's going in the restaurant, and it comes back to you. They send appetizers over to the table. I'm not expecting that, but you know what I mean? It's the same people that we see over and over again. And that's just our starting point. Then it's the people that we see, at work that we interact with on a regular basis. It's how do we do meaningful things with them? How do we take a genuine interest in those people? You know what I mean? And help touch their lives from time to time.
Yeah, I call them internal customers. We have external customers we're usually focused on, but our coworkers are our internal customers.
Yeah, it's the people around us. And it's like you said, Adam, taking the time to write thank yous. People don't do that anymore. Now, it doesn't have to be a card and a pen. It could be a follow-up email or a text. I'll leave it to each person about how they want to do the follow-up. But a lot of people don't do the follow-up.
For sure.
And it really surprises me because the follow-up is what keeps the ongoing relationship open.
Keeps the dialogue open. It's the most
dialogue
simple
open.
thing.
Yeah. So I'm trying to teach my boys that at a young age as I give them people to talk to about their careers and their next steps. I sent that, and I talked to them, and that was great. Okay, well, that's not enough.
That's not a relationship.
That's not a relationship. That's a transaction.
Right.
So do the follow-up now.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know why schools don't even teach relationships. I was asked to give a talk at a school, Oberlin College, on private equity. And I thought, what a boring subject. I mean, they could read online ad nauseum about private equity. So I said to the director of this program, I'd rather talk about relationship equity. And she looked at me like I was a Martian, like relationship equity, what is that?
Right.
And so I just thought I'd take a chance and I'd talk to these young, sharp future entrepreneurs about building relationships in a digital age. And you would have thought I, taught them how to go to the moon. They were like so thrilled because no one's ever spoken to them about relationship and developing interpersonal skills to your either personal, restaurants, or professional benefit. And I think the more you can do that still and share your wisdom, you're so good at that. I know your father's book, what was the title? Bootlegger's Son, right? Is that the name of his book? Yeah. I mean, the title of your book, should you ever write one, you haven't written a book, right?
A small one.
Okay. What was the title?
I think it's a summary of my columns from the magazine.
Yeah, so your next book I think would be great about relationships, because I've seen whether it's the little person in your dad's little metaphor, or literally the president of the United States one time, calling you out in a good way. So I think you're spectacular at building relationships. So that could be a topic of a future book of yours.
I think sometimes we can be very small-minded. We always think A plus B equals C. But that's not how things work. I'll give you one more example. As you know, about 18 years ago, one of our employees in California was in a very bad car accident. It took a person's leg off. And it ended up being a big lawsuit, which fortunately we were able to settle through mediation. But during that time, we had to come up with a large sum of money within a short period of time. And I remember that a couple weeks after that happened, I got 12 checks in the mail out of the blue from National City Bank. It must have been September, October. And this is before they became PNC Bank. And I'm like, why are they sending us all these big checks? I can't understand why they're sending, and they were large checks. $40,000, $38,000. For us, they were larger checks at the time. And I remember calling over there, and the chief marketing officer's name was Brad Hemstreet at the time. Since then, he's passed away, unfortunately. But I remember at the time, I said to him, Brad, I got all these checks from National City Bank, and I don't understand why you're sending them to me. He said, well, Fred, we have a policy. It's called use it or lose it. And for our next year's budget. So if we don't spend the money, we'll lose it. So I thought, who do I want to spend it with? And I thought, I don't know, that Fred Koury is a nice guy.
More advertising.
Yeah.
They were like proactively buying.
Buying for the following years, a nice guy. I've heard nice things about him. And so I'll spend it with him. And so we got all these checks, which was the down payment for our lawsuit. I mean, our mediation, our settlement.
Good for the cash flow.
But here's an example about A plus B doesn't always equal C, that all of a sudden he hears something from somebody else, and all of a sudden I get these checks sent in the mail. So I think sometimes we have to be careful not to be small-minded in our thinking.
What can I do for him so that he does something for me back?
Just comprehensive in our thinking.
Right. Well, I know it's not a transaction, but you being with us today, you and me and our listeners, is way beyond 1 + 1 = 2. You've shared so many good lessons today. I can't believe how quick the time goes, but I want to thank you for being with us, Fred. Good luck in this next season of your life. I have no doubt whatever you choose to follow in terms of your instincts, they'll be the right ones, because that always seems to be the case with you. But thank you for agreeing to be with us today on the Up To podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully the information I shared will be helpful to someone.
Great experience, Sharon.
Thank you for listening to the Up To podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe via your podcast platform of choice. To receive our newsletter, suggest speakers, and give your candid feedback, please email Adam directly at adam@uptofoundation.org. We would love to hear from you. The Up To podcast is produced by BLC Digital Strategies, a full content creator company located right outside of the nation's capital in Tysons, Virginia. See you next time.